Scary stories that'll make you hawk TUAH. Haverhill Asylum, built in the early 1900s, was notorious for its brutal treatments and inhumane conditions. After closing in the 1970s, it was abandoned, left to decay. Despite the warnings from locals about the asylum being haunted, urban explorers often ventured in, drawn by the macabre history. Hannah, a paranormal investigator, decided to spend a night in Haverhill Asylum to document any supernatural occurrences. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and her own nerve, she entered the asylum as the sun set, casting long shadows on the crumbling structure. The air inside was heavy, the stench of mildew and rot overwhelming. As she walked through the desolate halls, she could almost hear the echoes of past horrors. Hannah set up her equipment in the central hallway, known for being the epicenter of paranormal activity. Hours passed in silence until just after midnight, when her audio recorder picked up faint whispers. Hannah strained to listen, making out fragmented sentences filled with anguish. Following the voices, she reached an old therapy room. One room in particular seemed colder, the temperature dropping sharply as she entered. Inside, her flashlight revealed rusted medical instruments and a worn leather chair with straps. As she panned the room with her camera, she saw something move in the corner, a shadowy figure. The air grew colder and Anna felt a presence behind her. She turned quickly and there was nothing there. Suddenly her camera shut off and the room plunged into darkness. She fumbled with the flashlight, which flickered and died. In the pitch black, she felt a cold breath on her neck and heard a whisper directly in her ear. Helpless. Panic surged through her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She restarted her camera, capturing a brief glimpse of ghostly figures, pale, tormented faces with hollow eyes, before it went dark again. Her flashlight flickered back to life, revealing the room empty but for a single piece of paper on the floor. She picked it up, finding an old patient file. The name on it was Elizabeth Hartley, a patient who had died under mysterious circumstances. As she read, she felt a hand grasp her ankle. She screamed, pulling away and running out of the room. The whispers grew louder and more frantic. Anna fled the asylum, her heart pounding. Reviewing her footage later, she saw the ghostly figures clearly and heard the whispers begging for help. The experience left her shaken, realizing that Haverhill Asylum was a place of unrest, where tormented spirits lingered, seeking solace they could never find. Bishop's Manor, a grand estate built in the 1800s, was once the jewel of the countryside. But after a series of tragic events, it was abandoned, left to the elements. The locals whispered about the ghost of Lady Eleanor, who had died under mysterious circumstances, haunting the manor. Edward, a history enthusiast with a penchant for paranormal, decided to explore Bishop's Manor. Armed with a flashlight and a notebook, he entered the manor as dusk settled in, casting eerie shadows across the decaying structure. The manor was a labyrinth of dark hallways and grand but crumbling rooms. As he wandered, Edward felt an overwhelming sense of sadness, as if the very walls were weeping. He reached the grand ballroom where Lady Eleanor was said to have met her untimely end. In the dim light, the room seemed to whisper secrets. Edward set up his camera and began taking notes when he heard the sound of footsteps. He turned, but no one was there. The air grew cold and he saw his breath fog before him. Suddenly, a piano in the corner began to play a haunting melody on its own. Edward approached the piano cautiously. The melody stopped abruptly, and he felt a presence behind him. Turning slowly, he saw the ghostly figure of Lady Eleanor, pale, with eyes full of sorrow. She reached out to him, her hand passing through him as if made of mist. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Edward, though terrified, asked how he could help. Lady Eleanor pointed to a portrait on the wall, partially covered in dust. Edward wiped it clean, revealing a hidden letter behind the frame. The letter, dated a century ago, detailed a plot by Lady Eleanor's jealous sister to poison her. As Edward read, the temperature in the room dropped further, and he felt a chill run down his spine. Lady Eleanor's ghost seemed to grow more transparent, her sorrowful eyes locked onto his. Edward promised to bring the truth to light, and as he left the manor, he felt the weight of her sorrow lifting. He published his findings, revealing the tragic story to the world. Locals reported that the manor seemed less eerie, as if Lady Eleanor had finally found peace. But Edward knew he would never forget the haunting presence of the sorrowful lady and the ghost piano's melody. Mill Creek Bridge was infamous for the ghost of a young girl named Lily, who had drowned in the creek below decades ago. According to legend, her spirit wandered the bridge at night, seeking help to find her way home. Despite the warnings, Tom, a local thrill seeker, decided to investigate the legend. One foggy evening, Tom arrived at Mill Creek Bridge with a flashlight and recording device. The bridge, old and creaking, seemed to groan under the weight of its haunted history. As he stepped onto the wooden planks, the air grew colder, and the sound of rushing water echoed eerily below. Halfway across, his flashlight flickered and went out, leaving him in near darkness. He heard soft sobbing and saw a faint light ahead. As he approached, he saw the ghostly figure of a young girl in a white dress, her hair dripping wet. She looked up, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Can you help me find my way home?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Tom, though frightened, nodded. The ghostly girl led him to the edge of the bridge, pointing to a spot where the water was unusually still. Suddenly, Tom felt a cold grip on his arm. He turned to see the girl's face close to his, her eyes pleading, "Please help me." In that moment, Tom realizes he needed to find out what happened to her. He promised to help and fled the bridge, the ghostly figure watching him go. Tom researched Lily's story, discovering that she had fallen from the bridge one stormy night and drowned. Her body was never recovered, and her spirit was said to be restless. Determined to bring her peace, Tom organized the search of the creek. After days of searching, they found a small, rusted locket belonging to Lily in the muddy waters. With the discovery, a sense of calm seemed to settle over the bridge. That night, Tom returned to Mill Creek Bridge. The air was still, and the usual eerie feeling was gone. As he stood on the bridge, he saw Lily's ghost one last time. She smiled, a look of gratitude in her eyes, before fading into the mist. Tom knew she had finally found peace, and the legend of Mill Creek Bridge took on a new meaning, a story of a restless spirit finding her way home with the help of a brave soul.